This episode, the referral mindset, generating more business through referrals. Well, running a handyman business relies on a steady flow of work and customers, or customers and work, I suppose. Referrals are the easiest way to generate high quality leads. And so Johnny and I thought that we would share some of our experience in the referral mindset or how to generate more business. Welcome to the Handyman Pros Radio Show, home improvement and maintenance tips from the pros. Thanks for listening to another edition of the Handyman Pros Radio Show, where our goal is to help save you time, money, and aggravation on your home maintenance and repair. This edition's entitled The Referral Mindset, Generating More Business Through Referrals. And to help me explain, it's the guy that referred me to the aliens. That would be Mr. Johnny. Johnny, what has been going on this week?
And they thanked me for it.
Johnny, I saw
They said they never seen anything like it.
I saw the greatest meme yesterday. It was
there's a lot of them going around, so lay it on me.
this is one was like so the aliens abducted me, but now they kicked me out, and there's a guy flying halfway through the air with no parachute on. It's like nice.
Yeah, we're all a lot of us feeling that way recently. Okay.
Yeah. What have you been? Anything going on this week? Anything exciting?
Not really. Just like I was mentioning to you before a show, starting to work on my stairs.
Yeah, we're going to do a show on stairs.
So
we're going to do a show on stairs because I've done stairs too. But there's some things that we'll get into. We'll kind of get into some of the weeds.
Ripping that carpet off, baby, and putting hardwood on. So let's do it.
Yep, understood. All right, folks, before we get started, we would like you to please like and subscribe our stations, if you would, please. It really helps us get the word out. Trying to just build the audience, make sure more people can find out some things about home maintenance and repair. So with that, Johnny, we wanted to talk about a little bit about doing some referral business and kind of a way to generate some business. Slowing up a little bit, I think.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of logical. I mean, the way things are going in the economy right now, and you need to stay ahead of some of your competition out there, right?
Yep.
And for all you guys doing this as a full-time gig, you probably know more than anything. In good times it's awesome, and when things get to slow up, you need to be a little bit more creative.
A little more creative.
Or not miss the basic blocking and tackling, I guess, if you will. So, one of the things is to talk about how we can leverage the customers for more business in terms of being referred out.
Yeah, I really liked your analogy right there. That's where the blocking and tackling, kind of taking the thing from Vince Lombardi, right? We're going to be the best at blocking, tackling, and running, right? This is really the basis of business is referrals, and you need to understand. We're talking about it as two ways, as mindset, but also as some actual real tips on how to actually, like what you need to do. How do you get referrals? One thing I wanted to say, this isn't just necessarily customer based as well, because referrals come from a lot of different places. If you're members of social organizations and people who know you, people don't make referrals how do we say this, Johnny? There's like, if I refer somebody to somebody, my reputation's on the line as well, right?
Yeah, and it's also leveraging all the relationships that you have. Like us, it might be other, professional HVAC guys or electricians, plumbers, et cetera, et cetera. So,
but it's also people of social groups like for example, both Johnny and I were members of the Airplane Club. We've both gotten some business out of those people. Yeah. I'm a member of a gun club. I've gotten a really substantial amount of business out of the gun club. But these have come just on personal referrals. That I might have never done work for any of the people, but they know who I am and they understand me, so they understand the kind of work that I'm going to do by association, right?
Yeah, and I think one of the things, and I'll just add that one of the things that you find in this business is that once the word gets out, to certain people, that you can really increase the business.
Yeah.
So you just don't discount any of that. Like I said earlier, just kind of the basics.
Right. And we talk about it as a mindset. And John and I, in prepping for this show, we were talking. Johnny looked at my notes and he goes, "What is this?" And I said, "Well, this." I said, "The problem with this is that we live in this world. We live. Everything that John and I do is based on effect. We don't do it unconsciously, but unconsciously we do it." Based on trying to make a referral. We want to do good work. We want to take care of our customers. We don't want to cause them any pain. We don't want to do anything like that because and the long-term effects of that. But if you're newer to the business or you're younger, and you've not really, we've been doing this for a long time as far as being in business. So we've probably forgotten more than most people know.
Well, it's an unconscious competent at this time.
Yes, it's point. Very unconscious for us to do this. And so we just wanted to kind of to help you understand if you're newer or you're just maybe just struggling just a little bit, that we'll give you some actual real tips. One thing I always like to start this stuff with, how much is this going to cost? Well, basically nothing. It will take some time. And anytime you have no cost involved, your return on investment is unlimited. So this is a huge thing that you just need to kind of push it in. So Johnny, what are some things as far as, like, I know one thing that I have for a mindset thing is I want to cause, for my customers, I want them to have, when I leave, they have nothing else to do. I do not create any kind of work for my customers. That's one of my mindset issues. And when I say that, they don't have to clean anything up. They generally don't have to throw anything away. They don't have to, clean the windows or whatever, vacuum, all of those kinds of things. I don't want to have my customers have when I leave, there's nothing for them to do. I don't create extra work for them. I know you do that as well. What's another thing like that you do?
Well, I think it's an attitude that when the way I think about this, it's just a comprehensive. In my mind, it all comes down to like a comprehensive sphere, right? Yep. When you walk out of there, how do you want to be treated?
Yes.
So, if you imagine somebody coming into your house. And doing work and when they leave, what did you think about that experience? And I think with that, when you guys start thinking about, all the little things that go on during that experience, what could I do better? Mm-hmm. What do I need to pay more attention to? So, cleanliness, friendliness. Everybody likes to, if they're gonna chat you up, that's one thing. Have fun, and I always try to have some fun with them. It's like, man, make fast friends if you can.
Yep. Sure.
If they don't want to talk, be respectful. That if they're not going to talk and they're kind of those type of stoic people, just respect that and just go about your business, do a professional job, be very polite. And what's going to happen when you leave, because you're going to feel it,
Right. It's a lot of feeling, right? I mean, there's just a lot of that.
It's an emotional thing, so you got a good job done. Let's put that aside. Okay. Everybody knows that we're going to have to do a good job, but if we put that aside, it's the other end experience of, would I have this guy back in the house again?
Yes.
And would I recommend this person, as we move on to the show here, would I recommend this person to my neighbors or friends, whatever, or family or whatever? Because, right. Hey, the guy was, all the things I wanted in just getting the job done.
Yeah. Yeah. And it is all those little things. It's thousands of little things. And Johnny, you said something there that I find to be very, very important, and that was being friendly and but at the same time being respectful, and not like try not to talk too much, but at the same time you
I'll clarify,
be friendly.
Yeah, and I clarify, if they're going to try to chat you up, be professional and have a conversation back. If they don't want to talk, that's great too. Just be respectful and play their game and just, say, hey, that's the way they are. And I've had both.
Yes.
I mean, honestly, well. We've all had, so, we all kind of, when you're studying body language and things like that, who's who. So.
One other thing too, this is a bigger picture thing, but have some situational awareness. And when I say that, what I mean is, and this started during COVID in a heavy way. If somebody works in their home, be really cognizant of what's going on in their world right at that minute. Like if they're on a phone call with a potential client or whatever, and this has been happening less so since COVID, but it still happens every once in a while. Somebody's on a phone call, might not be the time to run the saw or the sander in the house, right? Seems simple, seems right, but if somebody's on a call, the last thing you want to do, you run the saw and then you hear the door slam behind you. This is not a good feel.
Yeah, I think
right?
that's a good point. I think what when I walk in, I'll see somebody's office there. They're sitting in. I can tell that they're working. Because
Right.
I did the same thing.
Yep.
And I'll ask them. Now if I'm just doing some electrical work, okay, no, there's going to be no really noise. Maybe a few sparks here or there. Maybe a few electrocuted the dog. But but if you're doing some other heavy work, hey, maybe is this the time to do this? Because I might be. Well, I'd just be on the call for the next 15 minutes. Okay,
exactly.
well now I gotta get my tools out anyways, and all the rest of this stuff. So that's gonna eat up to 15, and we're cool.
Yeah, it's a pivot at that point.
Yeah,
it's a pivot at that point. There's always somewhere there's always a solution for that. It's just a question of what it is, right?
Yeah.
If it means I don't know, there's always that pivot. It's just one of those mindset things. You and I do this without even thinking.
I think along those lines, I always tell people before I start, here's how this thing's going to go. I need to do this, so that they understand. Because if I just catch them cold, well, I didn't know you were going to start pounding with a sledgehammer, or whatever. So
a hammer.
I always kind of let them know, hey, well, I'm going to have to take this apart. I'm going to have to do that, and then I'm give them the high points along the way. This might make, I might make some noise here. I see that you might be working. So, it's everybody gets this stuff. It's just don't miss the little things. That's all.
Yeah. And it really is little things. I always say, even things like, don't leak oil from the truck on their driveway. And I know that seems simple, but make sure even air conditioning condensate sometimes can kind of spur people. They think your truck's leak. Well, it is leaking, but it's leaking water, so that's not as big a deal. But it's things like that. It's just all of these little tiny nuances. I always do say to people, make sure as far as children and pets go, do not insult the children or the pets, do not, because
I mean, hey, that's an ugly kid. You're probably not going to get a referral out of that.
Well, but even it's more than that. It's just, be respectful of the fact that their kids and their pets are around, and if they become problematic, then just have them take them aside, and usually, like for kids, it's always for me, it's usually a safety issue. The kids are interested, especially little boys are always interested in what you're doing, but sometimes it's just not a good idea to have them within eye shot just because. And so just tactfully just say, hey, can you take Billy and go do, whatever.
Well, sometimes
it
depends, if I've been in the house a couple of times or whatever, I'll try to, pass a little knowledge along to the kid. Here's why I'm doing this, and here's how you do it, and so on and so forth. So you guys, everybody gets that, it's a little bit of a finesse in all this that we're talking about here.
Yeah, it's definitely finesse. It's just it's exactly right. I mean,
but
my thing is pets, right?
But I think at the end of but I think at the end of the day, it's just kind of what is the end game here in terms of this show is to get a reference.
Correct. Get a referral.
So a referral. So, it's or a reference for that fact.
Yeah, right.
So, it's that's what I always have in my mind is that if I wanted, let me put a scenario together here is that, I just got into, let's say I get into a new neighborhood. It's a nice neighborhood. And maybe it's, it doesn't even have to be that old, because people are, if they're big homes, there's always something going on. People are always putting pictures up. They're always doing something, whatever it might be. That's just an example. But that's the time when, you can ask them, also at the end of the time, at the end of the day, at the end of the job, you feel like you deserve to make the statement, do you know anybody else in here that could use my help? And could you do a favor for me and just turn my name over to them?
Yep.
Because I won't call them, and I'm thinking to myself, because I'm not going to call them unless you give me the go ahead, or you'll make the introduction for me.
Correct. And that's really the way that I do it is I ask the same question, and they'll say, hey, let me leave you some business cards, right? Just in case, and I usually leave 3. And I just, let me leave you some business cards just in case, somebody, or there's somebody down at church, or there's somebody at, the local, whatever, because again, those referrals come from many, many different places. It's not necessarily just in the neighborhood or whatever, but it's from all over the place. And so I always leave a few cards just so that people have an easy reference point.
Yeah.
They go up on the refrigerator usually, which is a great spot for them. And then they go from there, and then do some follow-up. I'm a big believer in, if you've done a really good job, particularly with newer customers, send a thank you note. And again, that it's just a little nuance, but it makes a huge difference when you send that thank you note. I don't do it much anymore because I can't afford to have more business at this point, but I know when I start off, I always do it, and I get great success out of that. Because how many thank you notes did you receive this week?
Nobody sends it out. No, honestly, 98% of all salespeople don't send. If I'm just talking the old days of sales, 98% don't send a thank you card or anything like that after a sale.
Yep, and it
goes a long way. Goes a long way.
Long.
Because
long way.
what's interesting is I'll give you an example. When I was working at a company, I think this was back in, I want to say the 90s or early 2000s. And one of the guys, when I first really got into this, maybe it was in the 90s because I was starting off in the 80s. Anyways, one of the guys that, would always do that. And he would go back, or people would go back into that account, because we were doing consulting and education work and stuff, and it would take maybe a year, and all kinds. Anyways, but they still had that thank you card hanging up in the in the lounge, the employee lounge.
Because it's so rare.
Yeah, and people, right? and they're like, hey, thank you for a great experience, the whole thing.
Whatever.
So,
whatever. Right?
It goes back to a lot of some of the other comments that we've made. Don't underestimate, where people start to stick things like that on their refrigerator, and pretty soon, they kind of forget that it's there, but it could be there for a year.
It can be there for a long
it's human nature, and I'm not gonna, but it's kind of funny because after a while they might need services again, and there's your card, or there's your thank you card,
and it spurs them to remember, the card's over there on the fridge is what it is.
Right.
It's that kind of thing. It's that simple. So I just want to bring up a couple of big picture things, right? So first one is Newton's third law, which we're going to get into physics here. Every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction, right? So this is what we're talking about. You send them a thank you note, you usually get a very positive reaction, right? It's that kind of thing. There's also the law of unintended consequences, right, Johnny? So sometimes you do things and you get an unintended consequence, which means you didn't expect something to happen. I tend to fall victim to this one a lot personally on other things, not so much on business, but on other things. And then one of the other mindset rules that I have is people will show you who they are, believe them. So we've talked about this from sales and marketing. In this applies in referrals, because sometimes in referrals, I've gotten referrals, Johnny, and I wonder if you've ever done this. You ever gotten a referral and you walk in, and even on a referral, and you walk into the customer or the potential customer, and they're like, the first question is, well, what do you think this is going to cost? Kind of thing, which automatically for me is it's a statement that qualifies the customer. Even though they come on referral, it doesn't mean I necessarily want to do business with that customer, you know? And that is the pricing issue is one that if that's what they start off with, we're already in my world, they're working backwards. Like they're already, it's not something I want to do, you know?
Yeah. And that's a whole nother topic.
It is.
And once again, that comes under the heading of, how to say no. So, that's, there's
But
a lot
you
of
do have to be aware of that, though. You have to be aware of the fact that
and
just because it's a referral doesn't mean you're necessarily going to take the job, right?
I like you. I like you. I don't like when I get that comment right up front.
Right.
It tells me a lot about, I'm not going to go into all the variations. All you guys out there that are working as handymen know. But it's, all of a sudden I think your comment, you're starting to work backwards a little bit here is probably right on. I don't like that. I don't like that comment because it kind of like, okay, am I going to do this job? Where am I at here?
Yeah.
Because I don't even know what I'm doing yet.
Right.
And they already want they want an answer out of me, and I'm not qualified to give them that answer.
Correct.
And I kind of feel, honestly. So.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So what else about now, what about getting real referrals? Like I always, so this is a part of marketing, right? Referrals are a part of marketing. So some of the things we need to understand is just like in this case, what's the job? Can you get any kind of information from the customer as to what's their budget, things like that, all those questions. These are things that you ask the referrer sometimes, do they have I hate to say the means, but what are they thinking? And in today too, Johnny, you got to admit, this is really happening a lot right now. So we're in a highly inflationary time right now. And everybody still has this mindset. They have their mindset, and I'm one of them. Oh, it's not that expensive, right? And as well as I do that things have gotten terribly expensive. Just materials and fuel and everything has gotten terribly expensive. But it's human nature to kind of live in the past. So we think of, I don't know, just whatever, that a gallon of gas is $2-3 right now, right? And I got a deal. It was $2.50 a gallon. Well, that's not really a deal in historic times, right? So it's just kind of one of those things that people live in the past. So at least if you have an idea of what they're thinking in their budgeting, you're not working backwards.
Here's a little bit of caution on that statement. If the referrer is going to say, hey, I've got Mrs. Jones down the street that wants a new sink put in, whatever it might be. Right. I don't know if I'm going to lay any other thing on her feet of her doing my job for getting what asking questions. I'd say, okay, let me find out what she's got going, because most people aren't, they're going to be like, hey, I don't want to do your work for you. So.
Well, no, and I understand that. And again, that's back to kind of the nuance and understanding. I'm referring more to a bigger project. They want to redo a bathroom or something. Are they dealing at, $3,000 or $30,000? Kind of.
Well, I think you say, hey, respectfully, let me call them up and see what let me find out, because that's the only way you're really going to know if we're living on two different planets or not.
Yeah. These are conversational things.
But these are conversations.
You're trying to pick this stuff out just in your conversation with the referrer. And sometimes it's.
Here's the other thing I would, so we're talking about referrals, I would also ask, from a reference standpoint, this goes hand in hand, is that before you leave, and we were talking about this earlier, of the good experience and everything, it's not a bad thing to say, could I have somebody call you if need be, if they're wondering, what kind of, job I do, and, that kind of thing, from a reference.
That's your reference point.
And that might be that might roll into that they might give you a referral.
Correct.
but it's not a bad thing because that's the best time to ask is right after the deal is closed. Do you know anybody else? Could I use you as a reference? Could you give me a quote? A verbal quote of, hey, so-and-so did a great job for me in redoing my kitchen or whatever it might be that I could put on my website. Do you mind if, or that I can put in a newsletter or whatever I send out?
Yep. As a reference, which is huge, by the way.
It's huge. So I come to the mailbox and I see somebody who's done the every door direct mail, which we talked about. You can go look it up, and I've got a bunch of quotes and, I've got a bunch of quotations in there from people. Hey, this guy did a great job on this guy did a great job on, and if you get 4 or 5 of those on there, people are like, enough. Okay. This guy, everybody's happy,
Yeah. Google reviews, same thing.
Exactly.
That's also the time when you ask for a Google review, if you get it, if that's part of your marketing strategy.
Exactly.
But yeah, it's all the same thing. All right. What else, Johnny? What else? I mean, tell us more.
I hear a dog.
You hear my dog.
I could make a joke right now, folks, but I'm really itching, but I'm not going to.
Hey, this is part of the deal.
News cycles. The news cycles. Okay, so
when you have dogs in the house, that's what I can say.
No, I got this one laying next to me. So, no, I think it's I think, folks, if you have any other questions, comments, leave them in the comment section of the YouTube or the or on our podcast. It would be great. This is just kind of a high level of, I think it's just, doing a good job, treating people right, and, increasing your business, especially in times like this. I'll rotate back to that as a takeaway.
Yeah. And the takeaway is build this into part of who you are. Make it as a part of who you are, and understand it'll come naturally once you do it enough, and you won't even think about it, and you'll kill your dog too. Or
the spaceship landed, Larry. He's barking. We're out of here.
That's what he's barking at.
Yeah.
That's actually what he's barking
we're out of here.
All right. With that, we are out of here. If you would, please like and subscribe our podcast and or our YouTube channel. We are live. You can see us talk occasionally. Eventually, we're going to do some shows where we actually do more than just talk. But anyway, be that as it may, that's video is a whole different gig. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, send us an email, questions@handymanprosradioshow.com, or leave a comment. As John said, leave a comment on our YouTube. We do get back to you, and actually we develop a fair amount of content from some of the questions that we get. So with that, Johnny, take us home.
All right, folks. Listen, have a great week. We'll see you next time on the Handyman Pros Radio Show.